a lot of times you start a business because you have hobbies and things that you want to have money to go and do. And my passion in life is like, don't run away from technology because it's frustrating and it's not working well together. Why don't you integrate that into your life and have it serve you so that you have more time to, like, literally, I like solving problems. So it's not like I'm just trying to automate myself out of a job so I can go fishing every day, but like, I want to have more time to solve interesting problems, and repetitive tasks are not interesting problems, you know? So, anyways, I think that's the context of like, why does this matter? It matters because we all have things that we'd rather be doing than fighting with computers and copying and pasting data or taking an hour to generate a report.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. And today I have someone you may have heard of, maybe not. I guess we'll see. Mr. Chris Kiefer, founder and CEO of the Boolean Review. I think that's what it's called, or just Boolean.
Boolean, yep.
Boolean. Okay, Boolean Review. I don't know exactly, but let's go, man. I'm stoked to talk to you. Stoked to learn more about it because, AI and all this tech stuff is getting into the industry, right? And we got to learn it. We got to be pretty good at this stuff. So, why don't you just give us like a 10-second overview of your business, and then I'm going to dive into every nook and cranny.
Yeah. So Boolean Automation, our mission is to free painters up to do what they love. So typically that's not copying and pasting data into 5 different apps every time you need to create a contact, or, taking CSVs from 5 different systems and trying to merge it all together so you can generate some sales reports. But yeah, we literally automate softwares that painting companies use. People always ask, what software do you have? We do have a review software called Boolean Review, which you mentioned. So that's really great at converting your customers into Google reviews. But that's something that has been around for 6 years. It was in the last year and a half that I realized my engineering background and my love for tech and automation. I was like, man, there are some very inefficient painting companies that exist. And so our company, like, you're not going to mention a software that I haven't heard of or know how to integrate with if you're a painting company. And so I thought when I started this company a year and a half ago that we were going to have to do painting for a couple of years and then jump into HVAC or electrical or something else. And what I found is that, AI is not slowing down. Technology, more apps are getting created every day. And most people that I talk to feel just overwhelmed with, like, I've got 8 apps right now. Nothing's talking to anything. There's errors. Like, there's got to be a better way. And that's what we help with, is finding that better way for your business.
So a lot of the times when people hear terms like AI, kind of brains just shut off, right? It's kind of become so quickly
Just
like
a buzzword.
this. It's just this buzzword, right? And, integrations and AI and putting things together, like it becomes quite like pedantic. Anyway, give us like a use case. So like the last client that you're working with, what are some automations that you implemented in their business to free up their time or to simplify things for them?
So I'll give you like the most applicable to anybody, and then I'll give you some crazy ones that I was like, I don't even know if that's possible, but we'll figure it out. First one that's anyone can relate to is when you book a lead, right? Like someone wants an estimate. So you have to enter that person into your CRM system, probably make a deal for that person, associate it. You got to make a calendar event for them or put it into some scheduling tool. Then you have to, like, the sales rep goes out there, has to make a quote, whether you're using a Paint Scout or Estimate Rocket or something like that. You got to maybe make a company cam project, send a confirmation email if you're a good company and you communicate with your customers. Maybe you're going to send reminder emails and text messages to the people. And there's tools that exist that do all those things. But a fantastic one is that one automation that was very popular is we just take all of the all the places that you want to propagate a new lead, you put it in one time in one form, and everything else is taken care of. So it literally, that alone, depending, there's like variable things that some businesses don't need to do, but you can ramp up your communication and send confirmation and like really professional emails and have it be done in, you know, a 3-minute form. So like fill out, that either you potentially could give it to your customer. I don't always recommend that, but usually it's making a form for your reception to do so that it automates that. So that's super common. Another crazy example is like, we had a client that paid their painters, they got paid 50 cents a mile to every day of a job for any jobs that were more than 12 miles away from their shop. I don't know how they came up with the number 12, but that was what they did. So they had someone who would type in the address of every job, and then they would go figure out, okay, this is this far away, minus 12, that's 25 miles times how many days we were there. That whole process is automated. You know, it's like you tap into Google Maps API, put in 2 points, it spits out a date or a distance, and then you have that in your project, and then it gets multiplied by the days, like all that stuff. So another client wanted to see Zillow information, like recent sale, price value, you know, things like that. Like literally any repetitive task that you do for a project, because you do a lot of projects, there is probably a way to automate it. And it might not be possible with your current software that you're using, because your current software doesn't talk well to others. So that's like step one, make sure that all your software talks and integrates. But then outside of that, like there's so many things that you don't need to be doing or have someone do in your business. The question is it worth the hassle to automate it? And the answer becomes yes, very quickly as you grow, right? If you're $1 million painting company, probably not a big deal that, you know, you have to put in 5 estimates a week or something. But when you're doing 16 estimates a week times 5 estimators, there's a lot of time to be saved there, you know?
Not even just time, but human error too.
Exactly. Yeah. So eliminating error for like your accounting or your job costing person having to go track down like, oh, the name's not matching up, or just looking sloppy to the customer, you know, like they spelled my name wrong in this and my name over here is a different way, that type of stuff.
Yep. So, I mean, some of what you were talking about before, like, can easily be done, I mean, not necessarily easily, depending on who you're talking to, but a lot of it can be done with Zapier.
Yep.
Right. Like when you're talking about like email reminders and like when someone fills out a form, doing 10 different things, like that stuff can all be done with Zapier.
Yep.
But when you're talking about automating different things that won't necessarily have like a Zap, like Zillow listings within a specific bracket in a specific area, and using people's what do you call them, APIs? I was going to say OpenAI, but they're APIs to actually, you know, create notifications for stuff like that. Like that's pretty cool. That stuff interests me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, and I always say that people are like, oh, so you're Zapier experts. And I say, yes, we are. We have we use Zapier, and make.com is another one I would highly recommend. I actually like Make more than Zapier. You can do more fun stuff with it, but those are no code tools. And I believe that there's a book called No Code and Low Code by Phil Simon. Does a great job of just explaining where app just development is going. From the beginning of time, developers have been trying to make developing faster and easier. And the latest iteration of that is literally, what if you don't code at all? What if you can make apps and not code anything? And so Zapier is probably the most popular no code automation tool, but there are a lot of other no code apps like Canva, believe it or not. That's a no code design software, right? Airtable, Monday, like all these tools, you're literally building apps and you don't even realize it because you don't have to code. And low code is another category where you have the ability to increase functionality or do even more cool stuff with just a little bit of coding. So it's not completely, and actually I would say oftentimes low code tools are going to be better for you because they have a lot of no code functionality that a non-developer, or they call them citizen developers, can leverage. But then it's like, oh, well, there's not an easy way to do this thing, or it's not a built-in function. Like, oh, well, you can just add in some JavaScript here, and when this button is pushed, then this thing happens.
Yeah, that's funny because I have a developer on staff. Most people don't have developers on staff, but I do. And whenever I need something done, he'll start with Zapier. He'll start with like the no code stuff. But if it can't be done with that, he's like, oh yeah, I figured it out. I just had to write like a quick JavaScript thing,
Exactly.
and then
Yep.
I put it in, and then now it does exactly what you want it to do. I'm like, awesome.
And you would be frustrated with a developer that if you gave them a task like, hey, can you have this data go from here to here? And they went and wrote a custom program. And you're like, why the hell didn't you just use Zapier and do it in 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Instead of, and that's exactly the strategy, is leverage low code to the fullest extent and then do all the other fancy stuff.
So before we lose people, we're 10 minutes in here, and I just want to like back up and kind of just create, like, now that we're getting into it and my brain is getting kind of in the right category and we're in the right section of my brain. Why is this important? And I just want to just frame that as a business owner that's I'm growing my business and I'm working with tons of business owners who are growing their business. It's really important to look at your business with a systems mindset and really figure out what should be, like, what should you do, what should you delegate, and what should you automate. And there's a lot of things that should be automated. Like, if you can automate something, that's way better than delegating it. You don't need an assistant to do this data entry if it can just be done 100% perfect every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would say good context. I'm glad you pulled us up out of the weeds. Context, I think, is super valuable to think. My perspective is most business owners are like, we all have, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm an Apple person. I got an iPhone, iPad, iMac.
Yeah.
And we experience integrated, beautifully designed apps every day. And Apple's the front runner. Everyone knows them, their ease of use. But like, I can take a picture on my phone and go to my computer and it's there. Or I can send a text message and go to my iPad and the whole conversation's there. And so we're experiencing well integrated technology in our daily life. And then we go to our business and it's completely fragmented. And we're like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I know Apple figured it out. So like, there's got to be a way to do this that doesn't cost billions of dollars. And there is. But that's why we have this desire for like, or the feeling of like, this is frustrating and irritating, and this isn't okay. Like, it's not okay that your business information is that scattered and disorganized. And so that's like where I'm coming from and where I was at when I was the marketing director for a webfoot painting in Oregon. I was like, I was talking over lunch to our receptionist, and she was telling me all the things that she has to do every day and how repetitive and boring it is. And I was like, I can't believe that they are paying you to do that. You know that like robots could do that, right? And she was like, don't tell anyone. I don't want to lose my job. I was like, no, like, this isn't about, like, you have value because you're a person and you're creative and you like love talking to people. We want you talking to people all the time. We don't want you copying and pasting data. That's not why they're paying you. And so that's something that has to happen, but it's not adding to the customer experience. So my perspective on all this is, let's find, like you said, what can you delegate or automate, or what was the third one? Do, delegate, automate?
Do, delegate, or automate. Yeah.
So as a business, what I like, our mission at Boolean is to free you up to do what you love. And we do that specifically in painting. So we have, like, I have kids. A lot of times you start a business because you have hobbies and things that you want to have money to go and do. And my passion in life is like, don't run away from technology because it's frustrating and it's not working well together. Why don't you integrate that into your life and have it serve you so that you have more time to, like, literally, I like solving problems. So it's not like I'm just trying to automate myself out of a job so I can go fishing every day. But like, I want to have more time to solve interesting problems, and repetitive tasks are not interesting problems, So, anyways, I think that's the context of like, why does this matter? It matters because we all have things that we'd rather be doing than fighting with computers and copying and pasting data or taking an hour to generate a report.
I think you're right. It's not about getting rid of work and not doing work. It's about increasing the value of the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And as business owners, you need to continually be increasing the value of what you're doing on an hourly basis in order to grow your company. Like, if you just paint all the time, your business won't grow beyond you being a painter. Right. But as soon as you start increasing that value of what you're doing, your business will inevitably grow. But if you have a lot of administrative things that keep coming onto your lap and you end up spending 5, 10, 15 hours a week doing data entry, moving around schedules, doing whatever, like all of a sudden you have 10, 15 hours less per week that you could be doing on estimates or marketing or leadership.
Yeah. I think a great way to think about that is the value, like literally try to think, is this particular task that took me 5 minutes or 10 seconds or whatever, is it adding value to the customer? Like, is the customer doesn't pay you to like move data around in the background to make sure you show up on time. What they're paying you for is to show up on time. How you facilitate that in your business, that's up for optimization, right? Customers want to talk to you, like having a person call me or text me or keep me in the loop. That's valuable to the customer. How you do that, and whether you pay someone overseas $8 an hour, or you have a robot do it, or you have Susan in your front office do it, that is up to you, right? But focusing on what's the value and how can I provide or continue to add value for the lowest cost possible for my business and my customers.
So let's bring this to like a specific a painting business. So if I'm running the painting business right now, I'm doing, $500,000 a year. I got admin, but I got a team as well. Like, how would you go and analyze a business or assess a business to see what should be automated first? Like, how can we start by taking some low-hanging fruit off the tree?
Yeah. So best way to address or help people is with an analogy here. So we're painters. I'm going to give you a home service analogy. If I was trying to, I wanted to build a house, right? And I had a friend who was a framer, and I had a bunch of lumber, and I was like, "Hey, John, come over to my house. I'm building a house. I want you to put a wall here, and then when you're done with that, you can put one over here, and then give me a call when you're done, and we'll figure out the next thing after that, right?" And he puts up a wall and another wall and everything. He's just putting this on dirt, right? I would be very frustrated with that person in about maybe a week or a month when I'm like, "Hey, we need to put the second story of the house on." And he's like, "What are you talking about? Like, we didn't." I was like, "Oh yeah, I just decided I wanted to add a second story." And he's like, "Well, we don't even have a foundation. Like, and you already had some other guy come drywall the place, and you haven't decided where you're going to put outlets or toilets or bathrooms or anything." And as crazy as that sounds, that is the number one thing that any business owners, but painting business owners are included in this, is they're doing that level of insanity with their technology and their automations. They're just like, pain, solve the pain, pain, solve the pain. And they're just trying to eliminate work without ever making a blueprint. And so to answer that question of like, where do we go from here? What are some low hanging fruit? The step one, like I could tell you, oh, automate this, do this. Here's 5 automations that add value. But you're going to be mad at me in a month or 6 months or 2 years when I didn't tell you, make a plan first. It's the same thing you probably do with all of your clients of like, hey, let's get clear on what the goal is. Why are you even doing a business? Why are you here to begin with? Are you trying to sell this? Are you trying to have it run itself? Are you trying to hit a certain revenue so you can take your kids to Disneyland? Like, I don't know what it is, but you have to know what the business is designed for, or what your hope for that business is, and then work backwards to say, all right, I have to, and again, using that house analogy, when you go to an architect, a good architect will say, so tell me, what do you guys like doing? Do you like hosting? Is cooking important? How many bedrooms do you need? Do you have kids? Like, all that matters because you're going to build the tech stack in a different way. Because if you never plan to have a marketing manager in house, then picking technology that has some amazing marketing analytics tools doesn't matter, because your outsourced marketing company is going to take care of that. So it's that type of stuff that's like, step one, make a blueprint. And I can tell you what I would put in the blueprint if that's where you want to go with this. But that's where I would say, before you get tempted by these no-code tools that anyone can use, you have to have a plan and a vision for what you're trying to build, because you would build the automations like structurally different if you knew what you were trying to accomplish.
Okay. That's reasonable. I guess I'm just trying to help people get started with this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah. So I would say, like,
yeah.
do you want to go down like how I would recommend doing a data blueprint?
Sure. What does that mean?
So that's just like I made up. What do we call the process of like planning? And what I would say is you literally make a list of all of the properties that your business needs to function. Like talk to your accountant. What information do they need to do job costing, or your sales rep? Like literally it's like use a Google sheet. And actually I haven't said this before, but for the painter growth people, I'll send you, it's like 120 properties. These are all of the properties that I think a painting company needs. It's like, here you go. There's a starting point. You might say, I don't need these 5 or 10 or whatever. Or you might think of some ones that I didn't put on there. That's fine. But the point is, you have to know what are all of the data points that exist for that are needed to run the business. That's the first part of the data blueprint. The second part is audit all of your software and just see, does it integrate with Zapier? Does it integrate with Make? Or does it have an open API? And then the second layer is, what are the functions of those apps, which you could skip if you're wanting to go through this quicker. But I've seen again and again that an app will say, we integrate with Zapier, and you're like, sweet, I'll sign up. And then you find out that all it does is create a lead for you and you can't trigger anything. So understanding integrations is big, and making sure that your current software can actually do what you want. The last piece is then mapping out a process of like, here's all the like things that need to happen. And first the receptionist talks to him, and then we schedule an appointment and the sales guy shows up. I like using Miro. It's free, but there's just like, and every business is different. It's like, we just walk through like, what is the processes that exist. That is like the data blueprint. And that is probably like, it's not valuable in the sense that when I'm done with it, nothing changed in my business, but it's infinitely valuable because it gives you the direction to then go have people build out the automations for you.
So it's like, what are the softwares that I'm currently using? What are their integration capabilities? And then what are like, how am I using each of these tools together? From there, you can kind of create your plan on what the lowest hanging fruit are.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, what's like this, I guess, tell me like a story of like a before and after of like a painting business owner that was just like a complete disaster, and you came in and just worked with them for a little bit. Like, just run me through the before and after in that regard.
Yeah. So there's I'm just trying to think of which one to talk about. There's a guy, his name's Russ. I won't say the name of his company, but it's about a $3 million company. He came to us when they were like 2.5. And this is like an inspiring story.
This is like a fruit-based last name.
What's that?
Do you have a fruit-based last name?
He doesn't.
No. Okay.
But this particular guy, just last week when I was talking to him, we worked with him for about a year now. He told me that he's always wanted to be a private pilot, but he's never told anyone. I was like the fourth person that he ever told that to. And he told it to me on the call a week ago. And I was like, dude, that's sweet. Like, that's so cool. Thanks. Like, that's awesome. You should definitely do that. And he was like, yeah. And I'm not just telling this to you because this is you. I just was talking to my wife about this, but it wasn't until we started working with Boolean that I actually felt like this could actually happen. And the guy, I mean, it's like, I don't actually know how old Russ is. So Russ, if you ever hear this, like, I don't know, I'm just going to guess and maybe offend you, but I'm guessing he's like 40 something, right? And it's like, how many of us have a dream or a vision to do something in our life, and we are embarrassed to say it? And then also on top of that, we don't even know how, because it's just like, yeah, if that ever happens, how am I going to afford, $200 an hour of flight training? Like, that's crazy. But he started to see the light, because let's zoom back to what his life was like before. He and his wife were in this business. He was an estimator. He also supervised people. He was running a $2.5 million company, and he's absolutely maxed out. Like, everything is stressful. He doesn't have time to work on the business, and the technology was just chaotic. Like, he had found the best stuff that he could, and nothing was connected and nothing was working, just like we're talking about. And we came in and literally overhauled everything. Like, the goal for me is like, I never am trying to swap out apps. In his case, he had picked a lot of tools that just literally didn't talk to anything. He got sold by the salespeople of the features and the functionality of these apps, but he didn't have a plan of like, how is this going to help me get to this being a pilot? As weird as that sounds, like, we're talking about painting, but it's like, You can, if you literally identify what the goal is for your life, you're going to get there way faster and have a higher chance of getting there than if you never articulate that. So that's like a kind of intangible, but there, like, I actually had a testimonial video of him talking about the numbers of like, oh, we had, 10% net again at 3 million that we did as 2.1 or whatever. And we, were able to cut our office admin role from 50 hours with split between two people to now we just have one person that works about 30 hours a week. So there's like all these different like efficiencies that gained. But the way I like to put that into like practicality, what it really comes down to is we're freeing people up and giving them their time back. And then you have to decide what you're going to do with that. Like I'd say a really terrible thing to do would be like, I actually had someone ask me when I was doing a discovery call, how many people do you think I'll be able to fire after you do all this? And I was just like, dude, like, I don't know. I mean, you could try to do that, but what I'm trying to help people do is grow and scale and redeploy their skilled workforce to more skilled problems. And the funny thing about that is that if your goal is actually to fire people, like, good luck getting the automation implemented. They'll sabotage the hell out of you when you're when you're like, if they even sniff that your intentions are not to grow and scale and become more efficient, it doesn't work. So that's another reason why it's not a good idea to get to $10 million and then say, man, I have an inefficient business, we should really cut back. But it's a great idea to do it when you're 500,000 or 100 or a million and say, hey, as I grow, how do I make sure I'm not hiring more than I need by leveraging technology correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of business owners right now who are just absolutely swamped, right? You have a busy day running around crews, buying paint, moving ladders, talking to customers, doing estimates, doing a bit of marketing, and then you get home and then you just got a pile of paperwork to do. You got to organize everything that you just did to make sure that your accountants are happy and your bookkeeper's happy and your production manager's happy and you got all that organized. So what would be the process of, like, so you work with someone, what's the first step that you typically do to figure out if the tools that they have are working?
Yeah, so I generally, what we do is literally, like, part of the sales process, if you want to call that, it's genuinely like discovering, is there an opportunity for us? So I'll interview all of the like key people in the business. So typically your admin person, like a resource coordinator or project manager, the sales team, sales manager, the owner, try and figure out where are the opportunities or where are you really in pain. And that's to try and identify, to your point, like the low hanging fruit. What's the stuff that if we just eliminated, your day would be 100 times better than before? So that's like trying to map out those things. And because we only work with painting companies, I've got a list of like 12 different automations that I have a feeling are going to be valuable to you. And then there's always, 4 to 5 other things that people come up with after you start seeing what's possible. They're like, oh, can you automatically generate contracts for us? Or what about change orders? If a customer wants to change something with our crew leader, how does that work? And like all that stuff can be solved. But the process is figure out if we can help. If we can, we'll tell you what type of investment that would be to do that. And then once we start working with someone, then we work through, like, probably the first 4 weeks, 6 weeks, depending upon how many opinions there are in the room. We go through the data blueprint, then we build out all the automations, and use as many templates and stuff as we can. And then if there are migrations necessary, we migrate all the data. We train people on how to use all the tools, make videos and stuff. But our goal, this is probably another thing that I think is unique to my perspective on all this. I made a YouTube channel, Boolean Automation. You can look it up, because I am trying to come from this place of abundance of, I have no secrets. Like, some people like keep their stuff behind lock and key. I'm like, I'll tell you how to do anything that we do. The value of us is not how, like, Zapier or Make. It's that we are able to very, very strategically and efficiently implement all those tools that many people on Upwork and other places can do, but also architect your whole system to like get you to your end goal as fast and as easily as possible. Like that's what we're good at. But if people are like, I want to do it myself, knock yourself out. Like I literally am trying to put out every single thing that I know on. I went onto a Facebook group and someone was trying to figure out how to do an NPS survey. And I was like, I'll make a tutorial on how you can do it for free using Airtable. And so there's a 5-part video series on how to make an NPS survey tool. Like that's literally my entire motive, is just like technology is changing so fast that if I just keep telling people how to use the latest technology really effectively and easily, then like tomorrow or next year, the technology is going to be different. So, and the crazy thing, thanks for pulling this up. The crazy thing about this is my first video that I ever posted was 4 months ago, and I have 1,600 subscribers now. And this channel is literally dedicated to painting companies, like painting company automation. I don't do marketing. I don't do sales coaching. I do nothing else other than teach you how to automate your apps. That's all I do.
Yeah, I would say like I would definitely suggest checking this out. I know when it comes to automating and setting up automations, a lot of the time, you know, like we said at the very start, people just kind of glaze over. They're like, I'm just a painting contractor. I don't need to learn how to do any of this. But I mean, if you can take a little bit of that mental energy that you have as a painter, listen to this, or as a business owner, take a bit of that mental energy that you have and just focus it on learning how to use one of these no code tools. It will be one of the most valuable skills that you can learn in terms of using the internet in your painting business, in my opinion.
Yeah, right there, the using ChatGPT to respond to Google reviews. It's a 10-minute tutorial on literally how to never have to respond to a Google review again. Just like that type of stuff. And it's good. Like the responses are really good. Can inject SEO keywords in there and stuff. So like I would even encourage you, depending of like most companies, like I already know my ideal client is a painting company between $4 and $7 million that's trying to get to 10. That's my ideal customer. So if that's you, I would love to talk to you. If you're not that, it doesn't mean I can't help you. I just know that my reputation is so important to me that I don't want to enter into a relationship with a company that's not going to go well, you know? So for everyone that's under 4, like check out all my free content. Like I'm literally trying to teach you how to do what I do. We have, like I said, this Russ guy, he was 2.1 and he had been referred by a friend. And he was like, hey, I know I'm smaller than most clients you work with. We've got this big opportunity in this market. I think we can grow this to 10 million and I don't want to waste any time. And he hired us to just be faster than what he would have done on his own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that certainly makes sense, right? It's more mindset than revenue, I would say.
Yeah.
So we talked about kind of how someone can get started on their own, what they can look like, where they can get kind of some free resources here. When someone's looking internally at their own business, because I mean, a lot of the painters that are listening to this podcast are below the 4 million mark, right? Just standard distribution of painting companies. There's more smaller companies than there are bigger ones, right? So how would you recommend someone who's in like that, you know, say $400,000 to $1 million range? If they're in that range, how should they think about saving time when it comes to some of these automations? Like maybe for someone who's not ready to like build the full house, but they just want to optimize their current tech stack. And when I say tech stack, I mean the CRM you're using, the you know, if you're using QuickBooks or Xero or like with the different pieces of software that you're using. How can someone just take what they're using and be more efficient with it through the use of no code or low code tools?
Yeah, I would say you're probably like, Chris, stop talking about the damn data blueprint. But I would say literally just make a plan. Don't overthink it. You could also literally just start with this is honestly like probably best tip value saving thing I could tell somebody. I'm a big fan of leveraging overseas talent. So do that when you can. If you just take the time to map out what you do or what you would like to have happen. So like use a tool like Miro, it's free, and say, all right, when I show up to a quote, this happens. And when I send my quote to my customer, I want this to happen. And I have to go and update these 5 different fields in this app and this app and this app. Just put it on a Miro board.
Or like that's like the same as like a Lucid chart, right?
Yeah, Lucid Chart, another great tool. Literally just do that and then go on Upwork or try and find somebody that's like, I do automation stuff in Zapier for, $20 an hour or something. And then give them the chart that you built and have them do it for you. Like, it's not like, I hope that doesn't sound overly simple, but it's literally that simple. Like, it's not hard to, if you make the plan, that's the valuable part. The concept and the design of the system is where the money's at. Doing the automation, you can have anyone do that for you.
Mm-hmm. So like this is where the money's at. So this is Lucid Chart. I use this a lot internally for a lot of things. So let's just like pick one of these and just to like show, because the purpose of this podcast is like actionable tips. And if they want to like learn more and actually get involved with you, I want to show them how to do that.
Yeah.
But if someone like, let's just do a quick workflow. And for the audio listeners, I'm sorry, but we got a great visual here. So if you want to pick up your phone and look at the Spotify video, then that will be helpful for you. So give us a sample. I'll fill it in. I'm pretty quick at doing this. So where should we start?
Yeah. So I'm pulling up a map real fast. So we'll pick a piece of the business to start. Like, what do you want to like sending quotes or
could you do like job costing?
Job costing is an interesting animal it's not honestly done in Zapier or Make. I recommend a tool like Airtable.
Okay, well, let's start with let's do some marketing or sales initiative then.
Yeah, so I would say like really common one would be a lead comes in, like map out all the places that leads come from, right? So it'd be like new lead. And what I would do is probably map out like we have Facebook, we have email, texting, all the different places. So you have the different places that leads can start. And I would actually disconnect those arrows going down and make them, they're all going to the right. We're trying to merge these train tracks into one. Okay. So it'd be like, now let's pick Facebook. Like, what do you want to have happen when a Facebook lead comes in? And actually I'll say, let's pretend instead of doing Facebook, let's say you're starting with like, at some point, regardless of how the lead comes in, you're going to probably text or call that person, right? So if you move that over to the right a little bit and just say, at some point, we want to get all of these channels to get to a place of like, this would be your preference. My preference would be call the person immediately. And if they don't answer, we want to send a text and an email, right? Some people like to text and say, hey, I'm going to call you in 5 minutes. Is that good for you? Do you want me to whatever? But there'd be like that process, and you could make that more detailed if you wanted to. But then the next thing after that would be like, now I want to qualify or schedule that, find out if it makes sense to schedule that person. And then you would say, a tool that I like using is called You Can Book Me. It's very similar to Calendly. I think You Can Book Me just has a little bit more customization and like webhook functionality that's cool. So it'd be like, fill out the You Can Book Me form. And then once the You Can Book Me form is filled out, we need to make a contact in our CRM system, make a deal in the CRM system. Or potentially update, make a quote in, I don't know if you use Paint Scout or what's your quote tool that you like using?
Drip Jobs.
Yeah. So you can make a quote in Drip Jobs, or a template, or add the contact to Drip Jobs. Sure. Or Company Cam. You guys use Company Cam?
Yeah.
So Company Cam would be another one that's, what's the other one? And then or Google Calendar. So like putting it on Google Calendar, or inviting the customer, sending a confirmation email to the customer. All of those things would be things that are triggered by the You Can Book Me form being submitted.
So just pushing, just a little critical thought on that. So with You Can Book Me and with Calendly, for example, Calendly is the one that I'm familiar with. Like the Google Calendar, the confirmation, the reminders, the text, all of that stuff just happens kind of like automatically, or like you can set those up through Calendly, through You Can Book Me. So that doesn't really need like a
and to clarify, my thought with this is like, people don't know what's possible. So what we're doing right now is like, figure out all the things that you want to have happen, And then exactly to your point, if someone was like, I want to do all these things, I'd be like, have you heard of Calendly? Did you know that that just is all solved inside of Calendly? So
Gotcha.
yes, you're 100% right. What I'm saying is step one is decide everything that needs to happen. Later, we'll figure out what tools to use to make that happen efficiently. But step one is just map out all of this stuff happens when I book an estimate, for example.
Okay, perfect. So you like get that. I love making the lines, making the curved
Yeah.
arrows. So nice. So you figure out what you want to happen. And then once you figure out what you want to happen, then it's like, what's the easiest way to actually get each of those things done?
Yeah, and that's where I would say you could work with someone on Zapier that does, or not Zapier, like a Upwork person that knows Zapier really well. You could talk to people in the industry and find out like what's the, what's the best way to do this. And you're right, like You Can Book Me makes the calendar event too. It has the ability to send text and stuff as well. But then there's trade-offs. Like some people like to have the text all come from the same business line. So that might be a reason you don't want to use You Can Book Me texting, because it comes from a third number that nobody knows. And you could use a webhook to send that to, text request or whatever texting software you're.
Emails, you maybe not want them from the Calendly domain. You might want them from your own domain.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like all those little tiny preferences. It's all possible, and it's just different levels of complexity. But as you can see there, it's like literally taking the time, like what you just did. I think this is awesome that you did that. What you just did, how long did that take us? Like 5 minutes, maybe?
Less. Yeah, a couple seconds.
To talk about what happens when a lead comes in. Like, what percentage of painters do you think have ever done that?
Yeah, probably 0.1.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's not fun. It's tedious, but that's an example of like working on the business, right? Taking time to say what needs to happen when a lead and not to, and by the way, it's other like, let's say you weren't going to automate any of this. If you took the time to do that, how much easier would it be for you to train a receptionist on how to do their job? Like, look, here's how our business works. And it's like, do this when it happens, or when a lead comes in. And so it's like that level of like the process mapping is not beneficial only for automation. It's beneficial if you want to scale your company and not have all this knowledge inside your head.
So I think in a very systems mindset, I've built this muscle over the last year and a half, 2 years. And I just want to show you one of the Lucid charts that I made. Recently we launched a new graduation program for our clients, and we had a lot of like automation and reminders that we wanted to make sure happened. So this is what it ended up looking like. And I basically created this disaster, and my CTO went through and just like made sure it happened. So we have like tags in our CRM, and then we have Calendly, and then we have like a whole bunch of stuff. So it's like, hey, they get this tag, and if they get added with this tag, then they get put into this automation, and this is an automation and active campaign. And then the client has to book. And once they book, then this happens. And if they don't book, then this happens. And then this,
Yeah.
So it's a whole bunch of like ifs, ands, which obviously we kind of kept building on it over time once we started realizing all of the different like human error points that we had to deal with. But then after a few months or a month or two, we got it figured out. And now she's mostly working.
Yeah, it's awesome. I didn't realize I could share. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Sharing. So here's this is like a good jumping off point for companies. And I can show you the different pieces of this, but from a high level, what I like explaining to people is that a really good structure is to color code. It looked like with your map that you had color coding that was telling you something about the particular process that's happening.
Yeah.
What I have here is blue boxes are employee actions, pink boxes are customer actions, and then red boxes are, do you want to guess? Automations. Yeah. So, but you have to have the process defined to start. So you don't know if it's going to be automation or like a gray is just kind of like a scenario or a situation that happens. But generally it's like you have to decide who does this right now. Is it a customer thing that happens or an employee things that happen? And then you want to try and automate as many of the employee things to red boxes as possible. And the diamonds are logic. So this is very common in like software engineering. You've got a situation, like you said, and if this, do that, if this, do that, whatever. So the point of this, and again, I'll show you like a zoom in on one of these in a second, but look at how much red there is compared to other stuff, right? Like every one of these processes is like, we'll just look at one of these is this is
Much
similar
more
to
organized than mine. I got to give you that.
this is similar to like what you said or we just did, like book an estimate, send a confirmation email. Is the customer already existing? Yes, it is. We just need to update it. No, it's not. We need to make it, right? Like all that level of detail is helpful. And then we've got make the quote, make the company cam project, put it on calendar, and then update the deal that was created with all of the unique IDs of the estimate, the project, everything that was made in that automation. We want to reverse and go back and tell the original deal in the CRM, hey, these are the IDs of the company cam project in case you ever want to go reference that in the future automation, right? So, and then like this one is one of my favorites. It's literally sending a quote to a customer. So like whenever I hit send in Paint Scout, I want something to happen. So this integration source ID is like a reference, a unique identifier that represents the deal in the CRM system. So if the quote in your estimate tool has an ID of a deal that exists in your CRM system, then we actually can go update that deal. But if it doesn't have that ID, we need to tell the estimator, hey, we don't have an ID. You're going to have to go do this manually, right? So then you go down here and it's like, depending on what happened to that deal, if the deal is currently in the 1 stage, we probably don't want to change any information on that deal because we already won it. And maybe I'm just resending a quote to somebody. But you see what I'm saying? Like the stage of the deal matters when you're sending quotes every time. So if you build an automation that's like every time I send a quote, go update my quote to bid sent and put the dollar amount in, that could actually mess up your reporting if the deal's won and now you're overriding the one and moving it back to bid sent just because the quote got sent again. So a lot of times when I'm explaining this to people, they start to get glazed over. They're like, what the hell are you talking about, Chris? But the point with this is you can see that like when you design this correctly, we actually have it set up so you can have change orders happen. So like quote comes in, the deal's already been won and sent to production, but we need to account for another $1,000 that we just sold the client. So this automation automatically makes an additional deal assigned to that customer. That's an additional work order. And now that deal can have like an independent close date and creation date and assigned to a crew leader instead of an estimator or whatever the thing is that you want to have happen. It's all possible if there's a plan behind it, you know? So like deciding what you want to have happen is key because you couldn't make this. And the funny thing about this entire chart, this is different. Every client's different. It never looks exactly like this. But this is like a common situation that we run into a lot, that if you, as we have grown and done this for a dozen companies now, we start to think ahead and be like, oh, we ran into this problem, 2 months down the road because we didn't like that simple thing of storing the unique idea of a deal in like your Google Calendar event or in your company cam project or whatever. That's a very valuable thing to do so that you can then call that deal up or that company cam project up in a later automation if you need to.
Yeah. And then the more painting companies that you work with, eventually you won't get to like out of the box prescription because every business is different, but you'll be able to more productize some of the certain components of it as you kind of deal with more and more of them.
Yeah, and so like each one of these yellow boxes, we call them like there's M1, M2, M3, M4. So that's like the M2 template, which we use for like following up with incoming leads. And you can do that the exact way you want. And so like you mentioned drip jobs. I love Tanner. Like what he's doing is incredible. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about today out of the box, he's already thought about and done in drip jobs. What I have found is that the all-in-one tools are fantastic for the startup to $2-ish, maybe $3 million. But there's definitely a point once you surpass that where you just like you want to do things the way you want to do it. And every little detail, like we're talking about, when you're really like, I've worked with companies that are 10 or $12 million in revenue, and their brand is really valuable, and they get a whole bunch of like, they spend a lot of energy on like, how do we make sure that we're consistent in everywhere that we show up and all this stuff. And that little detail of like, do we have Calendly send it or our own number send it? Like, they care about that a lot. And they should, because they're processing 200 jobs a month, and there's a lot of, they want to make sure that a customer has their number saved and they can just text back and be talking to a person right away,
Yeah.
So all those types of things I think are fascinating.
Well, there's a ton there, and we're just scratching the surface on what's really possible with automations today. We'll have to like pick some specific components of it for a conversation another day. If someone is interested, if someone is like, say, million, 2 million, 3 million plus, how do they get a hold of you? And what does that look like?
So you can go to helloboolean.com. That's HELLO, and BOO, Lean is LEAN.com.
We'll put it in the description below.
Yeah. We should have, I love the name Boolean. There's a story behind it, but talk about marketing errors. I never said I was a good marketer. I just am a really good automator. So I picked an automation word that I liked, and nobody can spell it. So that's on me.
Yeah. It means like yes or no, right?
Yeah, it's true, false. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's helloboolean.com. And like I said, you can also check out, I have a personal website, chriskiefer.com. And I've got my Pursuit of Purpose podcast. I love chatting with entrepreneurs about, Mike, you were on the podcast, so you can go listen to the conversation we had. But yeah, I'm a pretty purpose-driven person. And like I said, our mission at Boolean is to free you up to do what you love. And I'd love to find out what you love doing and see how we can get you doing more of that and less of the stuff you don't
like getting your pilot's license.
That's right.
Sweet. Well, hey man, thanks for coming on today. That was awesome. Hopefully you didn't lose too many people in the weeds there. But hey guys, if you're looking to automate, if you're a little bit smaller than that, do it yourself, get started. Send me a message if you're not sure how to do that. If you want Chris will probably just give you some free advice too.
Yeah. Or check out the YouTube channel. Soak up as much as you can. And other thing is, like, if you don't want to work with me, like, or you're like, I don't know, Chris, I just want ideas. Tell me what you want to know how to do, and I will make videos on that. So
let's go. Okay. Thanks again, Chris.
Thanks, Mike. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.